A millionaire see his maid being humiliated on a blind date with only $5 and her life change forever. She sat across from a stranger in a restaurant she couldn't afford, $5 crumpled in her purse, unaware that a man who owned half the city was about to witness her humiliation and quietly change her fate forever. Hi, my beautiful family. Thank you for sticking around with me through our trying times. I really appreciate your love and support. We're finally back again to give you many more beautiful stories. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Isabella learned early how to take up as little space as possible. She moved quietly through the penthouse every morning, barefoot or in soft-soled flats, careful not to let the sound of her existence echo against the marble floors. The apartment sat 47 stories above the city, wrapped in glass and silence, a place where dust was more offensive than loneliness. She scrubbed countertops until they shone, folded linen with surgical precision, and polished silver she would never use. Not because anyone demanded perfection, but because perfection made her invisible. And invisible people didn't get in trouble. The city outside glittered like a promise never made to her. Isabella paused by the window, sponge in hand, watching cars crawl below like ants carrying other people's lives. Somewhere down there were restaurants with candles, menus without prices, and conversations that didn't include words like rent, overdue, or tomorrow spoken with fear. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. She wiped her hands on her apron before checking it. Blind date, 7 p.m. Location, Bellamy's. Her chest tightened. Bellamy's wasn't just expensive. It was the kind of place people like her were noticed for the wrong reasons. She slipped the phone away and finished her work, forcing her breathing to stay even. This wasn't reckless. It was necessary. 3 years without a single date had taught her one thing. Loneliness could be just as heavy as poverty. Her mother had died owing more than love could cover. Hospital bills still haunted Isabella like unpaid ghosts. Dating wasn't about romance anymore. It was about remembering she was still a woman, not just a worker. Before leaving, she went to the staff bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. Simple blue dress. Clean. Carefully ironed. Not new, but not apologetic either. She reached into her purse. $5. One wrinkled bill and coins warm from her palm. Bus fare home. Nothing more. Isabella closed her eyes. Just one normal hour, she whispered to her reflection. That's all. Across the city, Nathaniel Reed stood in a different kind of silence. His penthouse was higher, colder, designed to impress people who never stayed long enough to matter. The art on the walls had been purchased because it appreciated in value, not because it moved him. Nathaniel adjusted his cufflinks and frowned at his reflection. At 38, he had everything people admired and nothing people envied once they saw it closely. Wealth had given him control, but stolen something quieter in return. His assistant's words echoed in his head from earlier that day. You don't need another deal, she'd said. You need to be seen as human. Human. As if vulnerability were a line item on a balance sheet. His phone buzzed. Blind date, 7 p.m. Bellamy's. Nathaniel exhaled slowly. He hadn't agreed because he believed in love. He agreed because people stopped worrying when they thought he was trying. Trying meant compliant. He grabbed his jacket and left, unaware that this night would undo years of emotional restraint with one unplanned moment. Bellamy's glowed like a temple to excess. The lighting was warm but selective, designed to flatter wealth and expose insecurity. Isabella felt it immediately when she stepped inside. The hostess glanced at her shoes. Just a second too long. Yes? The woman asked, smile professionally thin. I'm meeting someone, Isabella said. Name? She gave it. The hostess hesitated, then gestured toward a small table near the back. Not hidden, but not central either. Isabella sat, folding her hands in her lap. She checked the time. 6:58 p.m. She practiced breathing slowly. She rehearsed ordering water without sounding nervous. She promised herself she wouldn't panic if he didn't show. $5 pressed against her thigh through the purse. Across the room, the doors opened again. Nathaniel Reed walked in. The shift was immediate. Staff straightened. Conversations lowered. Respect traveled faster than sound. The maitre d' approached him like gravity itself had summoned him. "Mr. Reed." "Right this way." Nathaniel followed absently, until his eyes caught on a woman sitting alone in a blue dress, shoulders tight, gaze hopeful and afraid at the same time. Something in her posture pulled at him. Not beauty. Not familiarity. Vulnerability. He didn't know her name. Didn't know her story. But he knew that look. It was the look of someone who had learned not to expect much, and still dared to show up. Nathaniel looked away as he was led to his table. He told himself it was nothing. Just another stranger in another expensive room. Yet as minutes passed, he found his attention drifting back to her again and again. Because some moments don't announce themselves. They wait. And in less than 10 minutes, cruelty would speak loudly enough for him to hear, and kindness would demand a price he hadn't planned to pay. Bellamy's filled the way it always did, slowly, deliberately, like a stage setting itself for judgment. Isabella checked the time again. 7:06 p.m. She told herself not to read into it. People were late. Traffic happened. Life happened. Then she saw him. Tall, clean-cut, confident in a way that felt rehearsed rather than earned. His blazer fit too well. His smile arrived before his eyes did. "Isabella?" he asked, already scanning her. She stood quickly. "Yes, hi." "Ethan," he said, extending a hand briefly before pulling out his chair. "Sorry I'm late. Parking's ridiculous." He didn't sound sorry. They sat. For the first few minutes, Isabella tried to convince herself this could be normal. She laughed softly when he joked about the restaurant. She nodded as he talked about work, finance, investments, busy weeks. He spoke the way people do when they like the sound of their own success. "So," he said eventually, leaning back, eyes drifting over her dress, her posture, her restraint. "What do you do?" The question landed heavier than it should have. "I'm a housekeeper," Isabella said. "Residential." Ethan blinked. Just once. But the shift was immediate. "Oh," he said, smile sharpening. "Like cleaning houses?" "Yes." He nodded slowly, as if placing her into a category that finally made sense. "Well," he said, waving the waiter over without asking her. "Someone has to do it, I guess." The waiter looked at Isabella. She swallowed. "Just water, please." Ethan laughed lightly. "That's it." "I'm fine," she said quietly. The waiter nodded and left. Ethan tilted his head. "You know, places like this are kind of a treat. You should enjoy it." "I am," Isabella replied. "In my own way." Something about her calm irritated him. The food arrived. Ethan ordered steak. Wine. Extras. Isabella watched the steam rise from the plate, the smell making her stomach ache, not from hunger alone, but from awareness. Awareness of every dollar she didn't have. Every rule she'd learned about staying small. Halfway through the meal, Ethan leaned forward. "So," he said casually, "how often do you come to places like this?" "Not often," she answered honestly. He smirked. "Yeah. I figured." Her fingers tightened beneath the table. When the check arrived, it landed between them like a challenge. Ethan didn't reach for it. Instead, he looked at her. "So," he said slowly, voice just loud enough, "how do you want to handle this?" Isabella's breath caught. "Handle? Well, I paid last time," he shrugged. "We should split it, right?" Her heart dropped straight into her stomach. She reached into her purse. $5. The bill and coins felt heavier than gold. She placed them gently on the table. "I can cover my water," she said, voice steady despite the heat flooding her face. "And my bus home." For a second, the restaurant was silent. Then Ethan laughed. Not quietly. Not kindly. "That's it," he said, louder now. "You came to Bellamy's with $5? Heads turned. Isabella felt every gaze like a hand pressing her down. So what was the plan? Ethan continued. Hope I felt generous? Pretend you forgot your wallet. I didn't pretend anything, she said softly. You shouldn't go on dates you can't afford, he snapped. People like you need to know their lane. The words cut deep. Isabella stood. I expected respect, she said. That was my mistake. She turned to leave. And that was when a chair scraped loudly across the floor. Excuse me, a calm voice said behind her. But you're wrong. Nathaniel Reed stepped forward. The room shifted. She didn't waste anyone's time, he said, eyes locked on Ethan. You did. Ethan frowned. This doesn't concern you. It does, Nathaniel replied, placing his card on the table. Because dignity doesn't cost money, and you couldn't afford it if it did. He turned to Isabella. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Her eyes burned. Thank you, she whispered. Nathaniel nodded. May I walk you out? She hesitated. Then nodded. As they left, the restaurant felt smaller. Quieter. Outside, the city air hit her like freedom. I'm Nathaniel, he said gently. And you deserved better. I'm Isabella, she replied. And thank you for seeing me. Neither knew yet. But that moment had already changed everything. The city moved on as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Cars streamed through intersections. Neon signs flickered back to life. Laughter spilled from bars where no one knew Isabella's name or cared to. But inside her chest, something refused to settle. She walked faster than usual toward the bus stop, her flats slapping against the pavement, the sound too loud in her own ears. Nathaniel matched her pace without crowding her, keeping a respectful distance, as if afraid one wrong step would undo the fragile calm he'd helped restore. I can call you a ride, he offered gently. She shook her head immediately. No. Thank you. I take the bus. He nodded. No insistence. No pressure. They stopped beneath a street lamp, its yellow glow softening the sharp edges of the night. For a moment neither spoke. I'm sorry about what happened, Nathaniel said finally. I know words don't erase humiliation. Isabella clutched her purse tighter. I'm used to it. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Nathaniel frowned. You shouldn't be. She gave a small, tired smile. People say a lot of things they shouldn't. Silence stretched between them, heavy but not awkward. Honest. I didn't mean to interfere, he said. But I couldn't sit there and watch. Most people can, she thought. Instead, she said, thank you. Really. I should go. He hesitated as if there were more he wanted to say, but didn't know how without crossing an invisible line. Take care, Isabella. You too, Nathaniel. She turned and walked away before gratitude turned into something riskier. The bus ride home rattled like an old confession. Isabella stared at her reflection in the darkened window, replaying the night in fragments. Ethan's laugh. The clink of coins. Nathaniel's calm voice cutting through cruelty like a blade. Don't romanticize it, she warned herself. He was just decent. Men like Nathaniel Reed didn't cross worlds and stay. They intervened. They disappeared. They forgot. She reached into her purse and touched the $5 bill. Still there. Still proof. Her phone buzzed. Mrs. Hawthorne. Did your date go well? Isabella typed, erased, typed again. It ended early. But I'm okay. She stared at the word okay until it felt like a lie she'd learned to tell convincingly. Nathaniel returned to his penthouse and loosened his tie, the silence pressing in immediately. He poured himself a drink he didn't want and stood by the window, city lights glittering below like an accusation. He told himself the discomfort was irritation. At Ethan, at public scenes, at wasted evenings. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Isabella standing in that restaurant. Dignity fraying but unbroken. $5. The number echoed louder than it should have. He'd built an empire from risk. Yet a woman with nothing but pride had unsettled him more than any hostile takeover ever had. You did what anyone decent would, he told himself. But he knew that wasn't true. Most people hadn't stood up. The next morning, Isabella returned to work. Same bus. Same aching feet. Same quiet determination. She didn't know whose home she cleaned that day. She only knew it was larger than most. Marble floors, glass walls, the faint scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air. Mrs. Hawthorne cleared her throat. The owner will be stopping by later. Isabella's stomach tightened. The owner? Yes. Mr. Reed. The name hit her like a dropped plate. No. That couldn't be. The elevator doors opened that afternoon. Nathaniel Reed stepped inside. Their eyes met. Recognition flared instantly. Raw, undeniable. Isabella straightened, instinct snapping her into professionalism. Good afternoon, sir. The words her cut deeper than any insult Ethan had thrown. Nathaniel nodded once, expression carefully neutral. Please, continue. And just like that, the power shifted. Isabella cleaned his home while Nathaniel walked through it as if seeing it for the first time. The woman he defended last night now polished his glass table. And it unsettled him more than any deal gone wrong. He noticed details he never had before. The precision of her movements, the way she favored her left hand, the faint scar near her wrist. He noticed how she avoided eye contact now, how carefully she kept distance. When a glass slipped from the counter and shattered, the sound cracked through the room. Isabella flinched. I'm sorry, she said quickly, already kneeling to clean it. No, don't, Nathaniel said, stepping forward. Too late. She hissed softly as a shard nicked her finger. Blood bloomed red against pale skin. Nathaniel grabbed a towel without thinking and knelt in front of her. Their hands touched. The moment stretched. I'm fine, she said, pulling back. I know, he replied quietly. But that doesn't mean I ignore it. Their eyes met. Not employer and maid. Not millionaire and housekeeper. Just two people caught somewhere they weren't supposed to be. From that day on, Nathaniel found reasons to come home earlier. Isabella found reasons to stay quieter. The staff noticed. Whispers began. Nothing explicit. Nothing provable. But enough. Enough to make Isabella's chest tighten every time she walked through the lobby. One evening she finally spoke. This can't continue, she said, standing across from him in the kitchen. People are talking. Nathaniel nodded slowly. I know. You're my employer, she added. And I don't want anything I didn't earn. The words hit harder than accusation. You've earned everything you are, he said. She shook her head. Not in their eyes. Silence followed. Then Nathaniel made a decision that surprised even himself. You'll be reassigned, he said. Another property. Her heart dropped. Not because it was unfair, but because it was right. I understand, she whispered. No hug. No dramatic goodbye. Just distance. That night, Isabella cried on the bus. Not because she loved him, but because she had finally felt seen. And it had been taken away. Time did not soften the distance. It sharpened it. Nathaniel told himself reassignment was the responsible choice. Clean. Ethical. Necessary. That was the language he understood. Decisions without emotion, solutions without collateral damage. Yet every evening when he returned to his penthouse, something was wrong. The surfaces were still spotless. The lines still perfect. But the air felt hollow, like a room after music had stopped too suddenly. Isabella's absence was louder than her presence ever had been. He caught himself looking for signs of her everywhere. The faint citrus scent of her cleaning solution, the exact way the throw pillows used to align, the quiet rhythm of footsteps that never interrupted his thoughts. Now the apartment felt like it belonged to no one again. Isabella, meanwhile, was learning how fragile stability truly was. The new property was farther. The commute longer. The pay slightly less. Then the letter came. She recognized the hospital logo instantly. Her mother's name printed at the top made her hands shake. Outstanding balance. Past due. She sat on the edge of her bed, the letter trembling in her fingers, old grief rushing back like it had never left. She had already paid so much. Sold what little she owned. promised herself it was over. But debts she knew were patient. Her phone buzzed. Mrs. Hawthorne. Are you okay? You didn't come in today. Isabella stared at the screen. I'm fine, she typed. Then deleted it. I just need time. Across town, Nathaniel sat in a boardroom staring at a face he hadn't expected to see again. Ethan. Confident. Smug. Unchanged. The meeting progressed until Ethan began presenting projections. Numbers inflated just enough to insult intelligence. Nathaniel interrupted him calmly. These margins aren't real. Ethan stiffened. They're optimistic. They're dishonest. The room went silent. After the meeting, Nathaniel stopped him. You humiliated a woman once, Nathaniel said quietly. And tonight, you sat across from someone who decides your future. Ethan's face drained of color. You don't lose your job, Nathaniel added. But you lose your arrogance. Decide what you do with that. Nathaniel walked away without another word. And for the first time, power felt like accountability, not control. That night, Nathaniel learned about Isabella's hospital debt by accident. An overheard conversation between staff, a name he recognized too easily. The number made his chest tighten. It was nothing to him. Everything to her. He paid it anonymously. No message. No credit. No leverage. Just relief transferred quietly from one life to another. Isabella found out 2 days later. The hospital called. The balance has been settled in full. Her breath caught. By who? I'm sorry, ma'am. That information is confidential. She knew. She marched into Nathaniel's office that afternoon. Heart pounding, fear and anger tangled together. I didn't ask you to save me, she said, tears burning her eyes. I didn't save you, Nathaniel replied calmly. I helped someone who would have helped me, if I'd needed it. Her anger collapsed into sobs she could no longer hold back. Not because of money. Because someone had helped her without demanding anything in return. Nathaniel stood then, finally choosing vulnerability over caution. I resigned as your employer, he said quietly. Effective immediately. She looked up stunned. There will be no imbalance, he continued. No obligation. No whispers. Silence filled the room. Then Isabella nodded. Slowly. Carefully. Not in gratitude. In respect. If helping someone meant giving up your power over them, would you still do it? Drop your answer in the comments. Months passed. Not the kind of months that rush forward with fireworks and confessions, but the quiet kind. The kind where wounds close slowly, and people learn who they are without the roles that once defined them. Isabella's life did not magically transform overnight. She still worked long hours. Still counted her expenses. Still rode the bus most evenings, her head resting against the window as the city rolled by. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, she wasn't surviving. She was rebuilding. With her mother's medical debt gone, the constant weight on her chest finally eased. She enrolled in evening classes. Nothing extravagant. Just certification courses. Something to give her options. Something that belonged to her. And every time she paid tuition, she did it herself. That mattered. She kept the $5 bill. Folded. Smoothed. A quiet reminder tucked into her wallet. Not of shame, but of strength. Of the night she chose dignity when it would have been easier to disappear. Nathaniel Reed learned how loud life could be without power. Stepping away from the employer role didn't feel like loss. It felt like honesty. For the first time, no one in his world was obligated to tolerate him, impress him, or fear him. And it was terrifying. He threw himself into work at first, trying to drown the silence with momentum. But something had changed. Deals felt emptier. Victories thinner. He'd seen a different kind of wealth now. Courage. Integrity. Quiet resilience. The kind Isabella carried without realizing it. He told himself not to look for her. He failed. They met again by accident. A small cafe near the transit station. No valet. No marble floors. Just chipped mugs and sunlight filtering through dusty windows. Isabella was counting coins at the counter. Nathaniel froze, then smiled. "Still budgeting?" he asked gently. She looked up and laughed. A real laugh. Unburdened. "Still learning," she replied. They sat. Talked. Not about the past, but about books, about goals, about how strange it felt to meet without fear or imbalance standing between them. When the check came, Isabella reached for it first. Nathaniel didn't stop her. She paid. Confidently. Deliberately. And when she stood, she caught him watching her. Not with admiration for what she'd endured, but respect for who she'd become. "I still carry $5, she said softly, tapping her wallet. "To remind you where you came from?" he asked. She shook her head. "To remind me who I survived." He nodded. That night, for the first time, Nathaniel didn't feel like he was rescuing anyone. He felt chosen. Their relationship unfolded slowly, carefully. No grand gestures. No savior narratives. Just two people meeting in the middle on equal ground. Isabella finished her certifications. Nathaniel learned how to listen. And when he finally told her he loved her, it wasn't dramatic. It was honest. "I don't want to own your life," he said. "I want to walk beside it." She answered without hesitation. "I know." She walked into that restaurant with $5 and walked out with her dignity intact. He walked in with millions, and learned that kindness was the only currency that truly mattered. So tell me, was it money that changed their lives forever? Or the moment someone chose not to look away? Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.